Well, good morning again, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining me for Thursday, April the 16th, 2020. Again, I am your host, and again, for those of you watching for the first time, do feel free to subscribe and be sure to hit that little bell. With that being said, everyone, again, we got so much to talk about, guys. We're continuing to do our best to watch all these updates as they continue to unfold. Governor Cuomo, the brother of Chris Cuomo, is currently giving an update in New York right now about the COVID-19 situation, as many of you may know. But again, we're going to continue to do our best to monitor this, guys. But again, we got so much going on, guys. What I really wanted to kind of talk about, of course, I will be leaving links in the description box below, is the 55-year-old Chicago firefighter. As many of you may know, yesterday, again, is the second Chicago firefighter to sadly lose his life due to complications of COVID-19. Again, we know he leaves behind his wife and two children as well, from our understanding. He is I believe, a 30-year veteran of the Chicago Fire Department and was just recently assigned to the Midway Airport Fire Station over there not too long ago prior to his unfortunate death. We know he is 55-year-old Edward Singleton, a 30-year veteran, again, of the Chicago Fire Department. And first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with his wife and children and both the Chicago Fire Department and all of our first responders alike. We know this comes no more than a week ago where Chicago lost another firefighter as well, a 18-year veteran, 49-year-old Mario Arroyo of the Chicago Fire Department over on the north side, far north side of here, who was just recently buried no more than just 2 days ago. But again, it's just a tragic situation all around. But of course, again, I will be leaving links in the description box below. But of course, I had shared this link late yesterday or whatever in regards to the second death of this Chicago firefighter. And it wasn't just too long ago. Somebody actually had the nerve to write in regards to this article, actually toward the post via social media and say that this falls, had the nerve to sit there and say that this falls on the doorsteps of President Trump. And the only thing I could just think about was just here we go again with the constant blame game and the finger pointing. Everything is President Trump's fault. And I think that's the one thing many of us are getting absolutely sick and tired of. Continue to blame President Trump for everything that's going on now with this COVID-19 mess or whatever. Some want to blame him, claiming he knew about this long ago and didn't do anything or whatever. And when he actually did, like close the borders, prevent people from flying in from China, the Democrats and everyone else in the Senate went absolutely nuts. And then, of course, you had the leftist fake news media accusing him of being racist and, calling him racist because he was referring to the virus as the Chinese virus. And and first and foremost, it's not racist to call it the Chinese virus because, for one, it came from China. It started in Wuhan, China. And, of course, you're going to have, your conspiracy theorists. Give me a quick second. You're going to have your typical conspiracy theorists try to sit there and say, well, and some have even shared videos saying that it was another Chinese individual who happened to be in the army here in the States who made the virus and sold it back to China to be released. And, I really don't know what to think when it comes to all this, to be quite honest. But, we'll let the chips fall where they may. Believe what you want to believe. And I'm sure many of you heard about the 5G tower thing as well. Some have done videos claiming that these 5G towers are causing all these deaths. It has absolutely nothing to do with the virus or whatever the case might be. But anyways, guys, I don't want to get off track here. But, it's funny how the media keeps doing everything that they can to try to spin everything President Trump is doing. You got old mad Maxine Waters. Just yesterday, I shared an article saying that the American people could think these stimulus checks are bogus by Don the Con. Keep in mind, again, this is the same woman who advocated for violence against anyone who supported Trump or, Republican senators anywhere. and then tried to play victim, and then now going on to state that the American people could think that these, checks are bogus. And then now today, by Breitbart News, where Nancy Pelosi went on to state during an interview with CNN, I think it was yesterday or either today or whatever, from her own home, once again doing nothing but continuing to point fingers and blame President Trump for everything, I'm sure, state that it's a shame that President Trump's names are on these checks. But again, it just goes to show the absolute rhetoric of the leftist Democrat. It just doesn't fit their whole narrative. But keep in mind, this is the same party that wanted free health care for all, advocated for open borders, and advocated for this, and college tuition for all, and free debt forgiveness, and somehow in the end, it'll all work itself out according to Bernie Sanders. But again, thank God, he's out. I saw it coming anyway, so... But again, I'm sure many of you get where I'm coming from, guys. But it just never seems to fail with everything that's going on with the whole narrative of the left. But anyways, guys, before we get off track, again, this person had the nerve to write me via social media and tell me that, this basically blaming President Trump for the death of this second Chicago firefighter, which is nothing new because that's what the media does, along with anyone else that pays attention to the fake news media. Again, but I went back and wrote her and told her, well, look, for one, this has absolutely nothing to do with President Trump whatsoever. While the Dems are at home doing nothing, which is pretty typical, they're blaming Trump, and while he's working to get checks to the American people, while they bash him because of his name being on these checks. There's so many of us out of work right now who are being forced to stay home and trying any way possible to get money in our pockets to keep our bills and rent in check right now. The Dems are continuing to once again play the blame game and cry about President Trump's name being on checks, that he's working hard to get to the American people while you are all at home crying about everything he's doing, and fake news media spewing its rhetoric once again, like always, guys. But again, for those of you who continue to watch this stuff, I urge you to please learn to think for yourself, guys. Stop paying attention to fake news media. As I said, they do nothing but spread lies, fake news, race bait, and they especially, promote fear. As many of you remember in March, again, as I've stated in one of my videos yesterday, it's the media propaganda doing nothing but spreading fear and propaganda and panic over COVID-19 when people, were going to grocery stores and panic buying, okay? They were panic buying water, soup, toilet paper, cleaning supplies, Lysol spray, and weren't thinking about anyone else but themselves. I mean, you've seen the video of it. I don't have to remind you of any of it. The long lines of crowds waiting outside to get in grocery stores or whatever, even people fighting over toilet paper. And as I've said, I don't understand what you need with all that toilet paper when it's not going to do anything to protect you from this virus. But again, it's all about common sense, guys. But that's pretty much where I stand with all of that. But moving on, guys. What I kind of wanted to talk about as well is there's a couple Christian conservatives or whatever that I tend to follow. There's the Patriot Hour. There's Douglas Ducote. There's a list of different others I follow. There's United America First with Will Johnson. There's The Mind of Jamal. I love the guy. He's kind of funny. Believe it or not, I actually follow Tim Pool. Or also, as he's known, he has another YouTube channel called Tim Cast, and even though he's a Democrat, he kind of leans a little bit more conservative, but he's a moderate Democrat, so he's not all on board with this whole socialist thing, believe it or not. But he's even said it himself that there's no doubt that Trump is going to win this, and so on. But that's a different story for a different time, guys. But there's one particular person I definitely follow. There's quite a few of them. I can't think of everyone's name right off the bat. But, there's quite a few brothers and patriots I follow. But, there's also American Joe. He's another one of my favorites. The rhetoric that Douglas Ducote faces each day. And of course, his producer Dustin Goldman as well. As many of you may know, there's one individual who actually has his own YouTube channel as well, where his name is kind of similar to Douglas, but it's actually not. He goes by the name Dougie Ducote the Clown. or Dougie the Clown, as you know, he's known by others as well. And this man just absolutely does nothing but just slanders Douglas Ducote, his family, and does nothing but spew absolute rhetoric and says things that are absolutely not true and hold absolutely no merit about Douglas Ducote whatsoever and his service to our country. He attacks Douglas for his service to our country. What else? He attacks Douglas for being a police officer. He calls him a liar and he says, "I'll patriot my butt," and everything. Just makes constant lies about Douglas Ducote and his family. And I think it was just yesterday, believe it or not, where it was shortly after another video Douglas did about the investigation and now how everything's going. I think it was Dougie the Clown did another video not long after accusing Douglas Ducote of advocating for violence against Muslim people, which was an absolute lie. For those of you who have probably seen Douglas Ducote's previous live stream about the investigation and whatnot and how that was all going. And, the thing about it too is he actually had his wife, Marilyn, on the episode as well, where she was thanking everyone for their condolences about the sad and tragic passing of her wife as well during her and both her husband Douglas's current situation. But again as well, we've seen how Dougie the Clown had the audacity to attack Douglas, over this whole virus issue as well. Again, calling him a liar and everything, and mocking him about his service. And it's just constantly the same rhetoric, accusing Douglas Ducote of hating American people, being a racist, advocating for violence, and now, the right wing, Republicans or whatever, we're the ones causing violence and whatever, and and it's the liberals who are the ones who wrote the Second Amendment, and just one lie right after another out of this guy's mouth. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. I mean, Dougie the Clown is the poster child for what a troll looks like behind social media. And it's absolutely hilarious, but it's not at the same time, because it's absolutely ridiculous to see how Douglas Ducote himself has come under so much attack that, these people have actually, hacked his email and sent death threats to major airports everywhere, sent death threats to groups like BLM, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, and, government officials as well, and so on. And they constantly slander the man and his family as well. And of course, I'm keeping Douglas Ducote, his family, and everyone else alike that may be going through some form of attack in my prayers, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. And then, the liberals, they have the nerve to try to play victim when things don't work out in their favor, because they can't stand to hear the truth. But again, guys, it just goes to show just how brainwashed, as I've said, people have truly become by the leftist media. And you really need to learn to think for yourself and learn to do your own homework, guys. I mean, I cannot stress this enough, okay? But with that being said, give me a second. And then, as well as, you got another individual, he's out of Texas. I'm sure some of you probably know who I'm talking about as well. He goes by Trumpster Bob. That's correct, y'all. He lives in Texas, as many of you know. The guy is, I don't know, man. He's definitely got some loose screws in his head. Almost every video he does, he's got a can of Keystone Light or whatever by his side. And it's just constant rhetoric. He just babbles on about any little thing. Anything he just don't like, he just babbles on about. And he actually has at least more than 2 YouTube channels. I'm not familiar with the other 2, but I know he goes by Trumpster Bob, and his second one is called Trumpsters and Conservatives. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday night, he had did a video. I don't know what time it was where he was, but he claimed it was late. And it was on the Trumpster Bob YouTube channel. And, man, you cannot make this stuff up, guys. I mean, this guy was passing gas, believe it or not. He was literally passing gas while doing his live stream or whatever it was he was doing. And then he's over here fanning it off and making jokes. And then, The rest of the video was about some college out there, Hillsdale or Hillside College or whatever, and he was just going in on this college. He was bashing the professors, the teachers, the students, calling all of them childish names or whatever, and spewing hateful, childish rhetoric out of his mouth, and even went as far as to call the college while he was on YouTube and leave them a message with the name of one of his YouTube channels, and began sending them all kinds of just disgusting rhetoric coming out of his mouth or whatever. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you know, if you watch the video, you watch at your own discretion. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, this guy is definitely a loose cannon. And of course, we do know that he is most likely one of the individuals that is under investigation as well for harassing Douglas Ducote and his family for defamation of character. And a lot of the things that comes out of his mouth would definitely lead up to what he is being accused of. You know, when it comes to the whole defamation of character, I don't know how you would perceive it, but the things that absolutely come out of this man's mouth is absolutely disgusting. He bashes Douglas Ducote's family as being gay, and he has bashed Douglas Ducote's wife, his children, and accused them of being gay, and accused them of incest or whatever else the case may be. But anyways, guys, on his second channel, he goes by Trumpster and Conservatives. And it wasn't long after Douglas Ducote had gave an update about the investigation again with, these three, Trumpster Bob, Dougie Ducote the Clown, and of course another individual who is just creepy. I don't bother to watch him, but you know, he has been known to say some pretty disturbing things. Is under investigation as well for harassment and defamation of character, if I'm not mistaken. Trumpster and Conservatives. He did a video not long after that. Again, after Douglas Ducote had did the video about the investigation and began calling Douglas Ducote a liar and claiming that he never threatened Douglas Ducote in any way or whatever, and even mentioned about the time that Douglas Ducote had went to his house and Douglas Ducote had physically threatened him or whatever, and whatnot, and which is a complete lie, because if you watch one of Douglas Ducote's videos, I can't remember which one it was, Douglas admitted that he went to his house with someone else, if I'm not mistaken, but Trumpster Bob was never home at the time, according to Douglas. But anyways, moving on, guys. Trumpster and Conservatives, the same guy, Trumpster Bob, went on to continue with his rhetoric, telling Douglas and his wife that they can kiss his you-know-what, even went as far as to bash his son with disabilities, believe it or not, calling him all kinds of names and things like that. And I mean, you cannot make this stuff up, guys. Going as far as to sit there and say that there's a study in Texas going on that saying that 90% of people born with disabilities were born out of incest, and accusing Douglas Ducote's son, who suffers a disability, being born of incest, and accusing Douglas Ducote of incest with his sister or whoever. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, the rhetoric that comes out of this guy's mouth. But, you know, you want to talk about defamation of character, this is the perfect definition of that. When you try to throw another man's son into your mouth, someone who has some kind of a learning disability or whatever, that's when you absolutely have to draw the line, guys. Because that's just the lowest thing you could do, just attacking another man's son for his disability. And you deserve anything that comes your way, you know, whenever it comes to legal situations. I mean, if you get arrested or you're being investigated and taken to court, I hope that comes to pass, because you have no business throwing another man or woman's son or child or anyone's name in your mouth, bashing them for their disability and accusing them of being born of incest and spewing absolute lies out of your mouth. Okay? So with that being said, Trumpster Bob or Dougie the Clown, you guys are going to get yours in the end. I can assure you of that. Even Dougie the Clown accusing everyone in Michigan yesterday, I'm pretty sure you saw the video, there were hundreds of protesters took to the streets in their vehicles with Trump flags and American flags, angry with the governor over the the major lockdown there in Michigan. Of course, I'll be doing a video about that very soon, so you don't want to miss this. With that being said, guys, things are getting very serious. Very serious with everything the Democrats are doing now. But with that being said, guys, of course, I will be leaving a link in the description box below. But again, for those of you watching for the first time, you do not want to miss this. Please do feel free to subscribe and be sure to hit that little bell so whenever another video is uploaded, you will be notified. But with that being said, guys, God bless and do stay tuned.